Dr. G. Ravichandranji, Vice President, Reliance Industries. Mr. Abhinav Arora, Vice President, Business Development, HAL. Mr. Abhinav Arora, if you can kindly come on the dais. Dr.
The distribution which has been identified through the various simulation and the process of doctrination is in terms of that about renewables, if you use for abatement, then it should be about 25%. And energy conservation and efficiency, if you bring in as part of your portfolio, then it's about 25% again. Electrification in the end use sector, then it's about 20%. Hydrogen and its derivatives, it's about 10%. And carbon capture and storage, carbon capture and utilization industry, which I have been pushing now, is of the order of 6%. And bioelectric CCS, carbon capture and utilization, that's about 14%. That means if I add all of them, it's about 36.9 gigatons of carbon dioxide per year we can reduce. And that will take us to what we are looking from today's 42 point something, 42.7 if I am not wrong, gigatons per year to less than that. That is the number what we are talking of. So that's all will happen by 2050. But all this is not feasible unless there is a huge investment. The total investment by technological avenues from 23 to 2050 for achieving the 1.5 degree scenario would be of the order of, today we are about 103 trillion, that is planned scenario. And if you want to go to 1.5 degree scenario, this has to be raised to about 150 trillion. That means about rise of 47 trillions, almost at the level of 1.7 trillion per year is the investment. And in what all sectors you will have to do that? You have to do it in power grids and energy flexibility. You have to do in carbon removal, capture, BECCS, hydrogen, electrification, energy conservation, renewables, power generation, fossil fuels, and fossil fuel supplies. Now, what is the scenario of the carbon dioxide emissions as far as Indian industry, Indian systems are concerned? You will see that the power sector is the largest producer of CO2. So it's about 1147 million tons of CO2 in coal-fired power plants mostly. Industry is about 762, which is in iron, steel and cement plants. Transport is about 337 in trucks, two-wheelers, three-wheelers and cars. Buildings about 164, residential and service buildings, and other areas about 98. You can see on the right hand side that the consumption-based CO2 emissions are rising from 1990 to 2019. Similarly, production-based CO2 was also rising. Of course, our GDP is also increasing considerably from 1990 onwards. We did a lot of simulation as to how do we reach this particular scenario of 1.5 degrees Celsius and how it is possible, because we have also made some commitment that by 2070 we will be now net carbon zero. So potential to go to net zero with technological advancements, namely improved capture technologies, ocean-based carbon sequestration and so on. So presently we are something of the order of 2.9, that is the gigatons of carbon dioxide equivalent. If we follow the trajectory what we are following today, that is reducing emission intensity at the rate of 1.3% per annum, between, as we have done in between 2010 and 2019, then this 2.9 will reach about 11.8 at the end of 2070, which is a very unacceptable figure. Then there is a line of sight scenario which we have simulated. What does it mean? It means that implementation of India's NDC existing and currently announced policies, whatever we have announced so far in COP20, right from COP15, 26 and 27. Technology advancement as per the current trajectory, what we are talking of, and shift in demand to sustainable alternatives in selected areas like EVs and so on. That would certainly take us that we will have a peak of this LOS peak, as we call it, by about 2035-37, about 3.8. And if we follow this, then by 2070, we will reach a figure of 1.9 gigatons of CO2 equivalent. There is an accelerated scenario which says that adoption of new policies such as carbon pricing, technology breakthroughs like hydrogen economy, CCUS, and faster implementation of the existing policies, accelerated shift to sustainable consumption like alternative materials, coarse cereal production, green steel, and so on, then we will have a peak of 3.4 just in near future by about 2027 or so, and through the accelerated scenario even 2050 and the kind of abatement strategy which I had mentioned in the earlier slides, we will reach the figure of 0.4, which is what we are looking at. The demand of electricity has tripled over the last 3 decades and is marked by a falling share of traditional biomass, leaving coal and oil in the dominant position. Electricity demand under the business as usual scenario in 2047 will be about 5,651 terawatt hours. Total energy demand by 2070 will be very high, 18,900 and 22,300 in that region, terawatt hours per year. And our simulation also says that coal will play a dominant role and it will be sharing in primary energy to rise to about 50% in 2047. But the way we are going to use the coal, there will be a paradigm shift aiming towards increased efficiency and much cleaner approaches. So with all this in mind, with the abatement strategy what we have, India's clean energy transition strategy consists of switching over to clean coal technologies, like we are talking of gasification, we are talking of carbon capture and utilization, we are talking of high efficiency systems, and also going for carbon capture, utilization and storage, thereby reducing the carbon footprint. Go for alternate fuels, like we are already using ethanol, and we can also switch over to methanol for a variety of applications. Hydrogen, of course, is the main source which is going to be there, part of the energy cycle. But my take on that is we should go from blue to green hydrogen. Both of them should be utilized. The nuclear energy, while we are into the large size power plants, but if you want to go into business in an accelerated manner, I think we should shift to small modular nuclear reactors, which can be factory produced and highly flexible. They can replace the existing fossil fuel based plants like coal plants and so on. Renewables, of course, India has a major push now. So renewables will be our major stay. Mobility will be sustainable mobility. We have seen that blended fuels we are using to reduce the carbon dioxide emissions, and also e-vehicles. In terms of storage of energy, it is water battery, like which is pumped hydro and so on, or energy storage using chemical means. So hydrogen is a major source, and this particular center of excellence
made us learn so many important things, various pathways for achieving net zero, challenges we are facing in the developing the hydrogen economy, and of course lastly in your concluding remarks how important it is for us to be Atmanirbhar and manufacture fuel cells, give momentum to that. And there are various schemes from the government, and recently in the PLI scheme, which sir has already shared. Thank you, sir, for gracing the occasion, and it was really a very informative presentation. So now we will be starting with the PHDCCI Green Energy and Environment Awards. So I would like to say briefly about what these awards are. These awards are being presented to sectors of industries in green hydrogen, biofuel, renewable energy, air pollution, research and development, and services in recognition of exemplary operations, systems, and the evidence of their impact on society with respect to climate change mitigation. Sustainability. I am really honored to have with us today Dr. V.K. Saraswat ji, member NITI Aayog. So if I can request you to kindly come forward so that we can give these awards. Goes to Dr. J.P. Gupta, Managing Director, Green Stack, India. A round of applause for Dr. J.P. Gupta ji. Dr. J.P. Gupta, a distinguished scientist, he is currently, and Dr. Gupta is the brainchild of setting up the Center for Excellence in Process Safety in Hydrogen at IIT Delhi. Shri Ram Institute of we come on the dais and please have the word. National Clean Air Program and spearheaded
Yes,
the
please.
development of National Air Quality Index,
Yes,
National
please, sir.
Ambient Air Quality Standards, and India's well-known 60
Thank you, sir.
source. Under his dynamic leadership and path-building contribution, the association has been very active in promoting and understanding of
Yes,
the air
please, sir.
environment and its pollution, its effect
Yes,
on
please,
human
close.
beings. And they have also been instrumental in organizing various Network 18 with an objective to highlight the importance of sustainability and commitment to a clean
Yes, please.
You can hold this here.
and this Network 18 initiative of Green Ribbon.
Please. Yes, please, sir. Okay. Yes. Yes, please.
Kindly present a small token of appreciation to Dr. V.K. Saraswat ji, Economy.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for gracing the occasion and
Yes.
making this inaugural session
Thank you, sir.
more meaningful with your. Now, may I request Mr.
As Dr. Gupta said, it's a day of celebration. But what is the root cause? I think it is the time to have a very deep sense of acknowledgement and appreciation for Dr. Saraswat, who is kind of responsible to bring green hydrogen, which the entire world is talking about. That India is one of the most serious player, and as the Prime Minister has also laid down, that India is going to be the net exporter of the green hydrogen. Now, very ambitious target when the whole journey started. NITI Aayog, under the leadership of this particular mission of Dr. Saraswat, very ambitious, but at the same time very achievable. The targets were set so that the world they take India very, very seriously, and at the same time, it has laid the foundation of the government of India to lay the further policies. This entire the journey of introducing, coming out with the mission, and then announcement of the policy, and so many other incentives and other support systems being announced by the government of India, it has created immense opportunities. Not only for the large, it is kind of a misconception that the green hydrogen it's meant only for the very large project, because it started with the Reliance, Adani and other large groups. But if we look at the entire value chain, then it creates humongous, very large opportunities for all the SME segment, starting from the components of the electrolyzer and the other production equipment. But no opportunities comes without the challenges. While we talk of the ample opportunities, but there are equal amount of the challenges. And one of the biggest challenges for which some solution is also being worked out is the cost of production. This is the starting point. Any business venture, unless it is viable, then who is going to take initiative and who is going to get into that venture? So cost of production and the difference is not small. It's very, very large difference as against $5 to $6 per kg of hydrogen, and what we are targeting is $1 to $1.5. So it's 3 to 4 times. So cost of production, since the key element is the cost of energy, 70%, and energy would mean the renewable energy for green hydrogen and the cost of electrolyzer. So Dr. Saraswat has already laid down what the government is working to bring the cost of the production down. So we sincerely hope that the cost of production, it will be a very viable venture for anybody to get into. And another important challenge is the availability of the finance, because the banking system and the equity providers, they don't have so much of the risk appetite, because it's a kind of a new technology. the technology has not yet been, the stabilized. So funding is a big, the limitation and the constraint. But this is where the government of India, they realizing they came out with so many announcements. The point is 19,700 crore of the incentive scheme, which could be used as a bridge funding the finance for the initial period of the challenges. The government has also come out with the concept of the green deposits, where some framework has been announced that the bank and the deposit receiving NBFCs, there is a framework whereby they could invite the green deposit, and that green deposit would be deployed only for the green project, for which the huge long list has been prescribed as to what all investment the bank can make out of the green deposit. And another important initiative is the sovereign green bond. 24,000 crore, almost $3 billion of US dollar of the green bond selling has been done the last year, and the government of India has the equal amount of the plan for the current financial year. So all these supports and the initiatives by the government hopefully will address the challenges being faced by the industry. Now it is the time to have a special appreciation, the recognition of our dynamic leader, Dr. J.P. Gupta, who's the dream and the vision that to create the Center of Excellence within the PhD chamber, and the first such kind of initiative in the entire, no chamber or no other institution has ever, and especially which is targeted for the capacity building for the SME sector, where this is again one of the limitation, and he could visualize that this is the big problem which need to be supported. This is how the Center of Excellence has got its birth. And of course, the entire initiative has been well supported by the leadership team of the chamber, and which was very, very good, and it could happen very timely. I would like to acknowledge the presence of few very important people here, and starting from Gargwa sir, Alok Kumar ji, and Dr. Rastogi ji, Chitra ji, Dr. Purnima Gupta. So thanks a lot for the gracing the occasion. My very special and deep sense of the thank to Dr. Saraswat sir. You could not only find time to come here, but the kind of the intense presentation, what you made, and for us, I think it was a great learning listening to you. So thank you very much. And thanks to Dr. Rakesh Kumarji, who has always been a very big support for all the initiatives the Chamber and Environment Committee has been taking. And very special thanks to Ma'am Kanchan and the Secretariat staff, entire staff, and Ma'am Sibi, who has been the main force to organize this function. Thank you. And congratulations to all the awardees again. And it's a very, very special kind of a recognition, and more so when it is coming from the hands of a person like Dr. Saraswat. Thank you very much again. Thanks.
And I thanks to all the dignitaries on the dais. Now we will be breaking for tea, and I think we are a little bit delayed, so within 5 minutes we will be joining again for the technical session, for the inaugural session of seminar.
Welcome to the guest of honor, Shri Alok Sharma ji, who is Executive Director, Center of High Technology. He is going to speak on opportunities and challenges, importance of industry, academia partnership in India's green hydrogen sector. He is very important person in the case of hydrogen. I think wherever green hydrogen some program is there, he is one of the brain behind in India. I wish that his very presence in this session will be a good sense of knowledge, and he will extend good knowledge to us. Then I also welcome the other speakers, Mr. Jaga Banta and Mr. Anurag.
That the hydrogen makes a sense that it is we are importing about 85% of the crude oil. We are also importing about 50% of the natural gas. So we are a net importer of energy, and So hydrogen can be produced from, as we know that from water electrolysis, as well as there are pathways for biomass gasification also. So hydrogen makes a sense that it can be a very good ingenious source for energy requirement of the country. So this has already been covered. National Hydrogen Mission has been launched, and as you can see, a lot of financial outlays are there for various programs, including the commercial things. Then PLI for the electrolyzers and other components also will be coming up. Then there is a fund for R&D. There is a fund for pilot projects. So a lot of funding is available now, and government is trying to push the green hydrogen in a big way. There is a target of 5 billion metric tons of green hydrogen to be produced. But I think this is a very ambitious target, and I think everybody need to work in this direction, because already the current requirement of the country is about only 7 to 8 million. So to have green hydrogen of the magnitude of 5 million metric tons, it's a big challenge. And again, this requires, as Dr. Saraswat told in the morning, that this requires huge renewable power of about 200 gigawatt of energy is required, solar energy or maybe wind or whatever. So that sort of energy is required to produce these 5 million metric tons. And this has already been covered. There are emission reductions, a lot of jobs will be coming. So parallelly, so a lot of benefits will be there for the country with this green hydrogen mission. In this mission, there are like PLI benefits will be there for the electrolyzer manufacturers. Then hubs will be created, and this is on the draft proposal stage, where there is an incentive for the green hydrogen to be produced about 50 rupees per kg in the first year, then 40 rupees, and then 30. It will stagger down to 30 rupees in 3 years. Then there are likely benefits of about rupees 4,400 per kilowatt. So this also will be coming up. And the third is the most important, which is the mandate. So mandate, right now there is no mandate for any of the industry. So this mandate is also likely to come for the green hydrogen. Mostly it will come initially for the refineries and fertilizer industry. This is a little congested slide, but it covers various facets of hydrogen production. As you can see that hydrogen is currently produced from the steam methane reforming, and all the refineries and fertilizer industry, we are producing a lot of hydrogen through steam methane reforming. Also naphtha reforming is also done. There are pathways to produce hydrogen through electrolysis, which is a very minuscule at this stage. Then methane pyrolysis is also being discussed, which is a sort of, I can say that it's again CO2 neutral pathway, because here you can split methane to carbon and hydrogen. So there is no CO2 reduction. If we can use solar energy for splitting methane. Then there is a pathway for biomass gasification. Then of course, coal gasification is also very important for us, and we need to target coal gasification and as well as steam methane reforming along with green hydrogen. As Dr. Saraswat told, that we have to focus on the blue hydrogen also along with the green hydrogen. Then one of the pathways on the bottom, as you can see, is the this is a photoelectrochemical pathway, as well as there are different one more different pathway is there, which is there are two different cycles, copper chlorine and iodine sulfur cycles. So these cycles are also being worked upon, where green hydrogen can be produced. But these are at I can say only at a R&D stage, and once these are developed, these can be a game changer, because the cost of production will come down heavily. Then this is the green pathway, like water electrolysis and waste to hydrogen. Green pathway, of course, 3 electrolyzers, PEM, alkaline, then SOEC, then water splitting through photoelectrochemical stage route is also one of the important pathway. Biomass gasification, as I can just mention here that when I was in IOCL, so we started this project with the Indian Institute of Science, and this gives about 10 kg of hydrogen per 100 kg of biomass. So 10% of conversion is there, and this is the best which has been achieved across the world. So this program is going on, and once this is developed, this can also assist biomass gasification, like green hydrogen will be produced from biomass gasification. We are also talking to MNRE to put this biomass gasification based hydrogen in the standards. And also reforming of the compressed biogas, because a lot of biogas plants are coming up. So biomass gasification can also be targeted to have green hydrogen. This already I told you that green hydrogen and is already produced by refinery in a big way. Sure. So this slide shows you the comparative cost of the different pathways for hydrogen production. As you can see that hydrogen can be produced from various routes. So gasification of biomass is one of the route which can be a cheaper option for producing hydrogen. Biomass for biomethanation of hydrogen can be a pathway, but it's a little expensive because you are going to produce methane first and then hydrogen. Solar electrolysis, of course, is the pathway which is well known, but the cost of hydrogen, as you can see here, this is a little bit figure on the downside only, but the current production costs are about 400 rupees a kg. So this is when the bulk production of hydrogen comes, so this can be the cost. Aqueous for the methanol reforming, once methanol is available, so we can target this also for the distributed applications. Then photoelectrochemical water splitting are at R&D stage, and as I told you, the target is $1 per kg. I think very ambitious target because the electricity required for conversion for hydrogen from the water is about 55 units. So the electricity cost has to come down to achieve this level of production cost for hydrogen. See, this is on the hydrogen storage where the target is, as you can see, this is a DOE target, Department of Energy of USA, where they have given a target of 5. Initial target of 2025 was 9%, but there are so much difficulties are there, so they could only they have reduced it down to 5.5 with the ultimate target of 7.5. So this is the target which is there. So this is again a very difficult, like hydrogen storage is one of the area which need to be targeted, and I will invite all the academia to look into this direction and especially work on this direction. And these are the pathways for storage of hydrogen. It can be stored in tanks, then there are hydrides, then there are metal organic frameworks. So these are the areas where academia can focus, and I think this is the one area where a lot of push is required because hydrogen to be produced is well known, like from methane reforming, electrolyzer is a known process. But once you have to store and transport hydrogen, then it's a big task. So these are the areas where the focus can be given by the academia. I can just mention here that we have, when I was in IOC, we have started a work with Indian Institute of Technology, Kharagpur, and we have developed a 350 bar pressure cylinder indigenously. That's a type 3 cylinder which has been developed, and it is under testing right now, and further it will be scaled up to 700 bar also. So that's a very good example of working with the academia, industry academia partnership. And I told you about the one pathway of biomass gasification where we partnered with ISC Bangalore. So this is, of course, there are challenges. The gaseous cylinder, we have to pressurize it to 700 bars, so that's a big challenge. A lot of cost is involved. Liquid hydrogen, of course, there are the risk of boil-off losses. So this is also a challenging pathway for countries like us. We are a hot country. Then metal and chemical hydrate, this is the one which I say that need to be focused on. So like hydrides or organic frameworks. Then these are the challenges on the transportation side, because currently the transportation only 200 bar is allowed in the country. So again, we are trying to push that we can have 350 bar or maybe higher pressure transportation to be allowed in the country, so that hydrogen can be transported from one place to another. So because at 200 bar, if you are transporting, the hydrogen quantity is nothing. So that way we need to have higher pressure or other pathways of transporting hydrogen. So this is the hydrogen IC engine. So hydrogen has, again, a lot of interest has come up, like most of the automotive companies they were focusing on fuel cell also. Parallelly, they have now again started focusing on the IC engine part also, because IC engine, the advantage is that you can, the hydrogen purity requirement is not that important there. You can use even 97-98% pure hydrogen also. But for fuel cell, you need to have 99.999 with CO content of less than 0.2 ppb. So that is the requirement. So that way, IC engine is also picking up. So in transportation, I see that both IC engine as well as fuel cell vehicles will be coming up. It's not, yeah. So the fuel cell, of course, is like a technology which is there, which is coming up, and a lot of challenges are there in this technology to reduce the cost. It's a simple technology, but there are like involvement of platinum and other precious metal in this, and the cost of the currently at the cost of the fuel cell is very high. So that way, as you can see, but the main advantage here is that you can see the mileage. The diesel car gives you 18 kilometers per liter, and the fuel cell car gives you 150. Now, currently they are even claiming 170 to 180 kilometers of per kg of hydrogen. So that way, fuel cell makes sense to go ahead. So these are the challenges, as you can see, that the current cost need to be brought down. Then there's a durability, like we have to work for the durability and transportation for 500 hours, and then there are some changes may be required in that. Then hydrogen supply, of course, is because for the once you have fuel cell vehicles, so you have to have distributed hydrogen sources. So that way, you'll have to produce hydrogen at the source, or you have to bring the hydrogen from some like bulk producers. So that challenge is there. Then there are no regulatory approvals right now. So these are also required. Public acceptance is required. Then safety, of course, is one of the very prime requirement for the fuel cell as well as IC engine vehicles, because in these vehicles you will be storing hydrogen at a higher pressure. So safety, of course, a lot of codes and standards are required. Ma'am is sitting here, they are working on in IIT already on the safety side and other things. So these type of things are of prime importance, because hydrogen, once it is stored at high pressure, so that way I think this is one of the requirement which need to be focused by the academia also parallelly. See, these are the initiatives being taken up by various companies. I will just focus on I have collected the information for the oil and gas sector. IOCL is setting up a 7,000 tons per annum of green hydrogen in Panipat refinery. Then ONGC is setting up a big plant. HPCL is setting up a big plant. BPCL, of course. So all the companies have taken up initiatives in this direction, and they are going to produce about 5 lakh tons per annum of hydrogen by 2030. That's the target. But that's only 10% of what the total target which has been announced by our Honorable Prime Minister. So that's 50 lakh tons per annum by 2030. This is by GAIL. They have given the, I think, order. They are also injecting hydrogen in the pipeline. So one of the area which is there is the pipeline also will play a critical role here, because transportation of hydrogen through the road transport is very costly. So pipelines again is going to play a role. So that is also one of the area which like academia can focus on. MRPL also setting up, Numaligarh have already set up one small plant, and they are also setting up one bigger plant. So this is some of the projects which we have funded. You see, at CST we also fund some projects on hydrogen. We have a hydrogen corpus fund, and we support some projects on various facets of hydrogen. This was started about 10 years back. So this is going on, and we have recently funded, as you can see, 15 fuel cell bus program with IOCL, which is costing about 296 crores. This is going on. This involves hydrogen production from different pathways of electrolysis. Then this is steam methane reforming, biomethanation reforming, and also the biomass gasification. So 4 pathways are being studied in this parallelly. So, and they will be setting up hydrogen station storage facility also, and dispensers will be set up for 700 bar pressure. Then lightweight, novel multi-component high entropy alloy, again for hydrogen storage. This has been given to, I think, one of the institute, IIT Roorkee, along with the industry. Then cost-effective PEN fuel cell based, this is for the less platinum, because platinum is the one which takes a good amount of cost in a fuel cell. Then effective hydrogen production through membrane-less electrolysis. So this is also one area, like Dr. Saraswat told, that membrane is one of the costliest component in the fuel cell. So, and electrolyzers also will be using the membrane. So this work is going on with a private institute along with the industrial partner. So this we have funded recently. So this will be working on the membrane-less electrolyzer. And then fuel cell, of course, there are projects funded on the fuel cell. decomposition of natural gas, as I told you, direct decomposition of the natural gas, then 10 kilowatt fuel cell prototype, then BS6 compliant engine. So as I told you that IC engine is again coming up for hydrogen. So we have funded one project recently with Volvo and Indian Oil where BS6 compliant fuel engine, hydrogen engine will be developed. Development of test loop, this is also one of the important things which we are trying to set up at one of the R&D institutes where a test loop will be set up where we will come to know how much of hydrogen can be blended in the CNG network. These are the overall challenges I have tried to list down. As you can see, in the hydrogen production, we have to produce hydrogen at less than $1. Then development and scale up of the SOEC, which is a technology, as Dr. Saraswat told, the high temperature electrolysis, which is also one of the technology which can be a game changer because the power requirement comes down from 55 kilowatt hour per nm cube to about 35 kilowatt hour watts per nm cube of hydrogen. So high pressure electrolysis, then electrolysis of saline water because water is a big requirement for the electrolysis. So again, we'll have to work on saline water electrolysis also, which is one of the projects which are we are going to give recently. And then again, focusing on the high ash coal gasification also to produce blue hydrogen. The storage side, transportation will play an important role. Then high pressure cylinders for type 3 and type 4 cylinders need to be developed indigenously. These are very important because already they are imported from foreign countries, and the cost of these is about more than 5 to 6 times the type 1 cylinder. So this area also needs to be worked upon. And then MOFs, high pressure tube trailers, as I told you, for transportation of hydrogen at higher pressure. Again, the hydrogen station need to come up. This is a chicken and egg story again. Then oil companies are looking for the vehicles, but where OEMs are looking for oil companies to set up some hydrogen stations. So this is also need to be, there should be some policy in this, that so many stations need to be put up, and parallelly OEMs need to come out with the hydrogen fuel cell and as well as IC engine vehicles. Then hydrogen IC engine is an important aspect again. Fuel cell based applications, electrofuels, this is again a new concept which is coming where CO2 can be utilized along with green hydrogen to produce for fuels again. So this can also be worked upon by the academia here. Pilot study for green steel, all the sectors are trying to use hydrogen, and recently Tata Steel, they announced that they have used green hydrogen in their steel production. Then industrial heat, of course, will be coming up. This is already prevalent in Japan and other countries where they use hydrogen and CNG mix for household heating purposes also. Sensors, I think again these two will play a very critical role. Sensors, and because these are right now nobody is looking at this, but sensors and leak detectors will play a very critical role in hydrogen economy. Safety codes and standards, we are working on 2 standards. One is ISO 241 along with OSD for hydrogen, even including stations also. And then public awareness is one, I think, which requires to be, and Center of Excellence will be, I think, covering this in their future days also, awareness about the hydrogen and other things.
Taking this forward, may I request Mr. Jagabandha Ning Dojam, Principal RMI India, to kindly give his presentation on India's green hydrogen ecosystem.
I represent RMI India. We're a think tank, global think tank, working in the area of clean energy transition for the past 41 years. And we have been involved with accelerating the hydrogen economy and the transition of the hydrogen that can be facilitated by the hydrogen economy across the world. Just to give you a flavor of our effort, we are right now involved with developing, I think, 7 hydrogen hubs in the US as a part of the Inflation Reduction Act incentives on hydrogen. We're also involved in developing hydrogen valleys or hydrogen hubs and the kind of industrial decarbonization work that is happening in Europe. And in India, Dr. V.K. Saraswat was there in the morning and of course gave almost an encyclopedic glance through the hydrogen. We have been supporting with one of the NITI Aayog in forming some of the analytics and the views on green hydrogen. Part of my presentation is on that. A lot of that as Mr. Saraswat has said the precedents and Mr. Sharma has said the precedents, a lot of it will be repetitive. So I'm going to not take too much of a time. I'm going to concentrate on my last few slides, which I think will be the value that I'm going to add in this conversation today. Have embedded carbon emissions as a part of the production process. You cannot decarbonize with electricity and transition to renewable alone. And this is where the role of hydrogen, both as a chemical feedstock as well as an energy molecule, comes in. Just case an example is, how do you decarbonize fertilizer or steel? These are things that every growing economy country will requires. You have to build roads, buildings, steels are required, cements are required. Now, this is where the importance of hydrogen come in. If India is serious, if the world is serious about net zero, there is a role in a market emerging for hydrogen, which cannot be discounted. Energy security. We've always imported every energy molecule, barring maybe coal. And even then, we import quite a bit of coking coal because we don't have the right coal quality. Now, here is the synergy with India's energy transition aspiration, the renewable projections. We have some of the cheapest renewable costs in the world. As you might have heard before, that almost 60 to 75% of the cost of producing green hydrogen is the cost of electricity. Now, if you have some of the most competitive renewable costs in the world, theoretically you also have some of the most cost competitive green hydrogen possible in the world, barring, of course, the distortion that country level subsidies, etc., can create, which is where the Europeans, Chileans, the Americans are heading towards, and to an extent we're also doing it with the green hydrogen mission. Now, that synergy allows us to own an energy molecule that, for the first time in India's history, is truly domestic, and potentially also cost competitive and be able to participate in a global trade that is at the brink of emerging. So that's essentially, I just wanted to reiterate that. Now, this is a cost curve that some version of it has been reiterated across. We presented this in the study that we co-authored with NITI Aayog. The short we're trying to get at is, of course, renewable-based hydrogen is more expensive right now. But if India's renewable cost curve is written, and if electrolyzer learning rate and price decline expectations are met, before even 2030, you could have green hydrogen that could outcompete gray hydrogen at the margin, and certainly blue hydrogen anywhere. So it is imperative, it is economical. Now, of course, the ambitious target is $1, and to get to there, the market needs to really develop, and that's where the demand side comes in, right? Now, of course, it's been reiterated, refinery, fertilizer. I'll just go into the why a little bit to add a little more flavor beyond that. So in a refinery, it's a no-brainer market. They already consume it. India is already consuming a fairly decent amount of hydrogen, as folks in the industry know. It use it for processing refinery products. We also use it as an input into the ammonia industry, which goes into the fertilizer industry, right? With refinery, the cost of any delta, any difference in hydrogen costs, basically when you're transitioning from gray to green hydrogen, which they currently use, can be absorbed fairly easily. The cost component right now is roughly 4 to 5%, which means that any difference of any introduction of a more expensive hydrogen doesn't impact the end product cost that much. And it can be passed to the consumer easier because these are petroleum products. Fertilizer is tricky because fertilizer, the cost component of hydrogen is around 90 to 95% depending. Transitioning fertilizer to green hydrogen is also tricky because fertilizer production, till ammonia it's simple, till fertilizer you need to route back the CO2 to get fertilizer in. Now that's the argument that industry is having, and I'm getting a flavor key. How does it work? They're already using gray hydrogen, which inherently has CO2 as a part of the component. Now you're trying to transition to green, which doesn't have that CO2. You have to externally introduce CO2. Is there a market for CO2? How's the cost economics going to work? Second part is, of course, it is intrinsically a sector linked with food security and intrinsically also highly subsidized by the government. So how is that market going to come? Within the margin, there is a reasonable argument to think about green ammonia-based fertilizer, primarily when you look at it from the perspective of import substitution, because despite India producing a lot of fertilizer, it still imports around 20, don't quote me, I think you might have to look up, around 20 to 25% of the fertilizer is still imported. So the country imports at market price, and of course have to subsidize it to the end farmers. So there is a premium that the government continues to pay at the market price for ammonia fertilizer import. Now there is a case for import substitution in that perspective. If you're anyway importing it, why don't you might as well set up green ammonia based fertilizer units, capital invested, but you're able to wean off import in the long run. Now, the other two major sectors which we have forecasted in our work, of course, is to do with steel and heavy-duty trucking. With respect to steel, hydrogen is probably the most critical lever in tandem with CCS, CCUS, carbon capture, in decarbonizing the steel industry. And you, as the gentleman before me was saying, Tata have introduced hydrogen into their blast furnace blending to try and see how much they can take. It happened very recently, I think last week or last week. Now, with steel, there's a big technology transition. The blending can be done at the margin, but using hydrogen to produce steel is a whole new capital-intensive game. The second part is for steel economics to meet. Either you have a carbon price, which makes the price of steel go up, which is not ideal for a country like ours, or you wait for the price of hydrogen to drop down so that the economics starts making sense. So with respect to steel, essentially it is for fertilizer and refinery to create the market so that you can ride the cost curve down. Parallelly, of course, the pilot activities, etc., can happen. The last point is on heavy-duty trucking. Now, you will have heard about fuel cell trucking, fuel cell vehicles, etc. Now, we have done enough assessment on cost of ownership, how does it work. Hydrogen makes sense for transport, but when you have long distance covered and then you have a higher tonnage going, which means heavy-duty trucking or freight transportation and within a margin, of course, long-haul buses. Now, there are other use cases. Hydrogen is being touted as, and green ammonia has been touted as a fuel for shipping, decarbonizing the shipping industry, even the aviation industry, even as a source of long-term, long-duration storage in the power sector. But from a predictable market creation point of view, from the vantage point that we have, these are where the efforts needs to be. Now, Now, of course, just a landscape is that the National Hydrogen Mission has happened, preceded by the national policy. Now, what is happening in the ecosystem is a lot of states are starting to act. You are seeing states developing exclusive hydrogen policies or have elements of green hydrogen within their renewable policies. A lot of the action is going to go to subnational level where the action, where implementation is actually going to happen. Second part is, with hydrogen, there are complications, materializing the hydrogen economy, there is a large element of states inevitably, because a lot of the incentives that the national mission lays out, it needs to be complemented with what the states can do in terms of taxation, in terms of the transmission charges at the state level to reduce the cost. There's a lot of things that the states are emerging. Second thing is all these hubs that we talk about, which is essentially where production and consumptions are going to be commingled, and so that you can exploit the economy of scale. That's going to happen at the states. So you're starting seeing early actions from states like UP, Rajasthan, Orissa. Kerala is working without a policy, but essentially into an implementation to develop green hydrogen hub. Maharashtra and Gujarat are leading. So that is happening. So a few lessons that we have picked out, and because we are also, involved as a technical advisor on some of that. But essentially, what the states need to do and what the states are looking to do is, of course, you need to identify your state's value proposition in the ecosystem. Not every state is meant to be a producer and consumer. Every state has the kind of industries that are conducive. UP, for example, is heavily, fertilizer based. If you need to decarbonize fertilizer industry in India, Uttar Pradesh you cannot ignore because almost 25 to 30% of the production is there, right? Similarly, Gujarat and Maharashtra are the no-brainer. There are enough refinery and fertilizer assets and can be used for developing hubs. But if you really are serious about decarbonizing your steel industry, you have to go into the heartland of steel and coal in India, which has its own challenge. And all of these do not have the right renewable assets. So trying to figure out what the value proposition is, that's going to be key, and then setting ambitious target for the state. Now, there's a lot of room for states to provide fiscal incentive to improve the competitiveness of green hydrogen. As I was alluding, part of it is to reduce the cost of power through reduction in wheeling and distribution charges at the local level, through reduction of banking charges. This gets into the detail of it, but you need to look at the power sector regulations and economics to actually incentivize hydrogen quite a bit. And also, even at a point where encouraging, incentives on land, etc. Right? New measures of ease of doing business will need to be very much present in encouraging the hydrogen economy at the local level. Of course, everyone has talked about the need for a lot more R&D. Hydrogen is technologically risky still, certainly in end use or many of the end use. So there's a lot of need for initiatives like the Center of Excellences, even at the local level. There are a lot of institutions at many of these states which can host some of these R&D activities, etc. The last point, which applies also at the central level, and as we drill down as a state level, is to do with the mechanism of governance. Hydrogen is a multi-sectoral initiative. Like your consumption sector is under the Ministry of Fertilizer and Ministry of Steel. Your production will be with the Ministry of Renewable or Ministry of Petroleum, and or if there's blue hydrogen, of course, Ministry of Petroleum, but Ministry of Power. There needs to be a good way for them to talk, which once we go to the subnational level, it's even harder. Second part is, I think, which I haven't mentioned, is the intent of the Center of Excellence also hints is the need for awareness and capacity building. And certainly, when we started our journey, even building the capacity of, a lot of our work helped build the shape of the capacity of the various government departments. And certainly, we are observing that at the state level, where a lot of this work is going to happen, a lot of capacity building is going to be required to get this right and correct. Because it's new for everyone, and certainly extremely new for state government machineries, which have their own day-to-day challenges to deal with, right? I'm going to conclude with a few points. I think this is where conversations with industries, being part of forums, help you unpack to what's happening in the sector. So there is a lot of intent and interest, but there is, and big players are, of course, emerging. They are willing to put in those resources to develop early pilots, etc. But bigger investment is still lacking, and a lot of it has to do with risk in the project development and how to make the projects bankable and how to mitigate those risks. The main one, of course, is to do with offtake risk. Who's going to buy that? Because right now, green hydrogen is coming as a premium. Now, this is where a lot of the conversation around hydrogen purchase obligations and hydrogen hub development starts tying in. Third part, probably a lot more still needs to be done because for example, in the fertilizer sector, because of the distortion that subsidy imposes, it's not going to be easy for fertilizer industry to act and say, I'm going to buy green ammonia. And there's a whole technology transition element to it. How do you de-risk that for the end user? That's going to be critical for any upstream player to put in the money to get the molecules flowing. That's a risk that is across the board. Like anyone who's willing to, any financiers will be like, well, who's buying your hydrogen before I can even put in that, right? The second part is, I think, consistency in net zero visioning and the end use sector development. So as I said, it's multi-sectoral. There's a lot of sectors. So you need to figure out your decarbonization trajectory for your steel sector, for your fertilizer sector, which will have element of hydrogen. Decarbonization, these sectors is not just about hydrogen, but that will be required if you want to promise a credible market and a consistent market going forward. That is happening, but it needs to be accelerated, right? Now, but this is also where the second point is, like, a lot of these sectors, there will be a need for green premium. So if you're trying to produce green steel right now, there is a large gap between the current production of steel and the green steel that can come on the market. And not many buyers are willing to pay that premium, certainly not in a country like India. Like, how do you bridge that? One way is, of course, to look at the export market, which are already starting to create those markets, let's say in Europe. The other thing is, of course, as BE and all have started speaking about carbon markets, which also needs to tie in with a mechanism around viability of gap funding. Now, the second last point, of course, is to do with government-to-government relations. I think a lot of activities have started with the East, countries like Japan, European countries like Germany, etc. And because, of course, there is this tacit understanding that, and as even in my introduction, I've said that there is a potential for India to emerge as a green hydrogen or green ammonia exporter, but a lot of work still needs to be done. We have never been a traditional hydrocarbon exporter in the history of our country. You are competing with the likes of Australia, like the Middle East, which have a track record of being an energy exporting nation. So a lot of the work and a lot of credibility will be required to push that market. Second thing is also to figure out where your competitive edge is. You necessarily are not competitive in all markets. There's a shipping cost that adds up. How much of that is freight cost? Infra development is required. You need to get your governance right to make sure that contracts are honored. But there is an advantage that India has, which a lot of countries which are primarily focusing on exports don't have, is we have a big domestic market. So if I have to imagine a project where even the potential importing nations, their own demands are not certain right now, let alone all those offtake risks that I was talking about, even for them to put in the money, there needs to be that flexibility that a country like India can provide, where you have domestic market as well as possibility of export, gives a high degree of flexibility to project developers. Of course, could come at a price premium, but that's something that could be an advantage that India has. The last point is which ties in a little bit with the finance question, is a lot of multilateral and development finance is starting to slowly materialize. I was at a consultation with the World Bank very recently, and they have this program on hydrogen called Hydrogen for Development, which RMI is a part of, and they're committing around $3 billion just to India, to finance around developing the hydrogen market, right? So things are happening. A lot of momentum is required. There are a lot of risk with this industry, but the promises certainly is the net zero future, and you have to keep going, I guess. And with that, happy to take questions later, but thank you.
Between various ministries, between various regulatory compliances, between our R&D institutes, that is actually the need of the hour. Thank you for being part of these important deliberations. And now
you're looking at incentivizing supply, and you're looking at key enablers. Across these three segments, there are few focus areas where a huge amount of investment will be needed over the next couple of years to start creating this hydrogen economy that we're talking about. So looking at the outcomes of the mission, I'm going to focus on two key aspects here. One is the electrolyzer target, the capacity target that we have, and the second one is the renewable energy capacity. Now, India already has made plans or has announced a target of 500 gigawatt of non-fossil fuel energy by 2030 and a net zero target by 2070. So hydrogen is going to be a key actor within that, and the mission sort of sets the tone of how this can at least catalyze the hydrogen economy over the next 10 years or so. So I'm going to briefly jump into a few of the mission components, and then I'll talk about what is the type of investment landscape that is required. So site or strategic interventions for green hydrogen transition primarily comprises of two components. You're looking at a manufacturing incentive for electrolyzer and a generation-based incentive for hydrogen production itself. Both of these components will have at least a domestic value addition criteria to them, similar to how the PLI programs for solar, for batteries and for semiconductors have been run. So that means that some of this investment will have to be done in India. Basis of how much the domestic criteria addition is going to be, a lot of these projects which will produce hydrogen in India will also have to have components like the electrolyzers, the fuel cells, the membranes being produced in the country as well. Another key aspect is pilot projects. This is really important because you're talking about kickstarting hydrogen applications in industries which have traditionally not used hydrogen. While you have current drivers for hydrogen, like a lot of the panelists and the experts were pointing out across refineries and fertilizers, you're also looking at mobility solutions, maritime solutions. Green hydrogen from biomass is a very critical component for India, again, being an agrarian economy. So these are projects that need to be explored, and the mission has avenues where such pilot projects can be landed to test commercial viability, to see technology feasibilities and see if these projects can be scaled further. I'm going to gloss over this section over here because investment into R&D is also something that is important, and the mission is also planning to do that, but also private sector investment will have to take charge along with government-based funding. So this is one of the research pieces that we are currently undertaking for trying to understand where a hydrogen hub can be possibly located. So this is the map of India. You have the natural gas pipelines in green, and then you have steel and fertilizer plants located. A hub is obviously going to be a location where you have co-located or a geographic proximity of these consuming industries. This leads to a lot of opportunities for identifying technologies, mitigating problems, and also creating contractual frameworks wherein different actors or stakeholders within the hub now have a defined role to play. And the government can facilitate all of this, and certain steps are already being taken for this through the mission itself. And a final piece, which I think is really important, and a lot of people over here, I would say, have a lot more in-depth expertise on these areas, are the regulations and standards across the value chain. So right now, we have not even come to a point where there is a consensus or a global consensus on what is the green hydrogen standard. While we define green hydrogen as hydrogen produced from renewables, there is still sort of no emission benchmark that the world is ready to accept. There is no sort of regulation as to what is the methodology that we can use to certify or classify a green hydrogen plant, which can then avail the benefits that a lot of these importing nations, specifically like Germany or the EU, are looking to capitalize on markets like India and the Middle East. I'll get into that aspect soon, but so these are the current applications for hydrogen that we see. Steel is not included there for a reason, because India's DRI capacity is currently limited. So current applications are primarily across fertilizers, chemicals and refineries, but you're looking at a potential application across a multitude of sectors, that's industry, transport and power. Current demand for hydrogen is between 5 to 6 million metric tons, and just simply because of the rate at which India is developing, it's projected that by 2030 our demand is also going to increase by about 3 times. Now this 20 to 25 million metric tons is not all green hydrogen, but the 5 million metric ton target that we have for green hydrogen could easily fit into this. And that is where the target, while being ambitious, is also sort of outward looking, wherein additional demand for upcoming hydrogen can be capitalized through green hydrogen. So this is an illustrative hydrogen value chain. This includes all components of hydrogen production, but what we will be focusing on is primarily the renewables based hydrogen production. So that's your renewables feeding electricity into the grid, and you have hydrogen generation, and that hydrogen is used for a multitude of applications. So you're looking at transportation, upgrading oil, ammonia for fertilizer production, metals like steel, chemical industries, and also distributed heat and power. So now, investments across the entire value chain will be required. Yes, we have renewable energy. Yes, it is low cost today, but we are looking at an additional 125 gigawatts of RE. India's entire RE installation today is, I think, at about 140 or 150 gigawatts. That's including your wind and solar. And that's almost doubling the capacity. So you're looking at creating additional infrastructure across renewable energy capacities, power transmission. This is going to be a key integral part. A lot of us already know that transporting hydrogen is complex but also expensive. You want to minimize the transport of hydrogen to as much as you can. Transporting electricity is cheaper. We're already doing it quite well. The Green Energy Corridor plan the Ministry of Power, which the Ministry of Power is executing, has connected a lot of these solar energy parks with load centers. And then you're looking at establishing an electrolyzer manufacturing facility within the country. Now, this also needs investments, not just for the plants themselves, but also the balance of plants required, or the balance of plants components required for these electrolyzer facilities or the green hydrogen facilities. So that moves into your compressors, your conditioners, your power conditioners, inverters, rectifiers, transformers, all of these. And then you're looking at the storage and transport of your hydrogen itself. Now, ports, bunkers, and ships also play a key role, not only to export the hydrogen, but also to import all the raw materials that might be required. Dr. Saraswat in the morning was pointing out about the critical mineral deficit that India faces. If we are to pursue a green hydrogen, aggressive green hydrogen transition like how the mission is planning to do, we will need a lot of these critical minerals to be imported from countries like South Africa and Russia and Australia as well. And that's where, again, infrastructure like ports and bunkers will play a key role. Pipelines, storage tanks and cylinders will again be part of this ecosystem where you can move hydrogen from the point of production to the point of consumption. And then, of course, you have the components associated with these as well. And finally, on the application side, you're looking at, my panelist before me was talking about the cost of transitioning the steel sector. A traditional steel plant, which could be a coal-fired blast furnace, is not going to be directly switching over to hydrogen. They possibly have to go through the DRI route. So India has to now invest in additional steel infrastructure, which can now consume this hydrogen that's coming up. You have fuel cell systems for transport applications, for power applications, and then retrofitting your manufacturing processes. This could be for fertilizers, where the CO2 deficit for, let's say, urea manufacturing needs to be figured out. If you're just making complex ammonical fertilizers like DAPs or NPKs, then yes, how do you produce your ammonia using just green hydrogen? And of course, refueling stations for transport applications. These are all infrastructure components that need to be set up to enable a green hydrogen transition. So investment needs to take place across the entire value chain, as you can see. So we have a lot of countries that have already announced their hydrogen strategies or have published a hydrogen roadmap, and they have significant fiscal allocations as well. The European Union, which with almost about $500 billion, this is spread across the entire EU, and some of this is also focused at importing the hydrogen through the high Hintco tender that was launched last year. So Europe, I think, has a plan to import about 10 million metric tons of low carbon hydrogen. Germany also has its own separate initiative to kickstart the hydrogen economy. India also is now on that list. We have, with the announcement of the mission in January this year, we have about $2.2 billion. And this allocation is across the entire hydrogen value chain. Each country, based on their economic preparedness and their availability of natural resources, has decided to target certain segments of the value chain. The US IRA, for example, is looking at a huge outlay for establishment of hydrogen hubs. I believe they're planning to set up anywhere between 6 to 8 hydrogen hubs, and various states across the US have been invited for proposal, have been asked to send in proposals as to how they will set up a hydrogen hub, and the funding for those hubs could come out of the IRA bill that was recently passed. So governments across the world have started putting in significant money behind the hydrogen transition. It is now up to the private sector and also partially the government to figure out how to operationalize these projects, and also how to set up contracting structures that can now enable the implementation of these projects at scale. So this is a similar slide to what we were looking at in regulations, but now I have broken it down over here into the stakeholders operating across each of these specific value chains. On the generation side, so generation of or production of green hydrogen, you're looking at your transmission grid operators, your electrolyzer companies, your renewable energy companies. For your storage and distribution, you're looking at pipeline operators, ports, refueling stations, storage bunkering. And on your end user side, you again have all the current industries as well as the potential industries which can now start using this hydrogen. So what are the key challenges that sort of need to be overcome for a deployment to start? This is a very crude way to look at it, but if you were to just classify it across technology and regulations, looking at technologies, you're talking about developing a domestic value chain. Now, how do you actually enable creation of components or creation of technologies at within India or within a specific country, and then look at promoting innovation in R&D? So now it so happens that countries which might have the technology or which might have the manufacturing expertise do not have the labor force or do not have the land availability. So it becomes critical that countries cooperate and collaborate with each other to share resources, wherein you are talking about natural resources being present in one place, the technology and manufacturing expertise being present in another place, and the manufacturing eventually taking place in a third location. So this is where technology plays a key role, wherein no individual country today, given the nascency of the hydrogen ecosystem, has all components of technology to fully develop a hydrogen ecosystem by themselves. So it is critical that innovation and R&D is led in a collaborative way. A lot of the speakers over here today were talking about how academia has already progressed to such great lengths in developing technologies that can be used in the hydrogen economy. But it is now up to the industry to sort of take these technologies either through licensing or through transfers and then start commercializing them. And on the regulatory side, you have supply demand incentivization framework. So while India is looking at creating supply, demand is something that is still yet to be figured out. Initially, we were under the impression that there would be mandates for the consuming industries, but they have not come out. So given the cost of transition to green hydrogen from either grey or brown hydrogen, how will the demand be created across these industries? Now, fertilizer sector, like the previous panelist was pointing out, is very sensitive to price fluctuations. Now, they will not want to possibly take exposure to a long-term contract for about 20 years, wherein their current setup for procuring natural gas or for procuring ammonia is maybe on a 1 year or a 2 year basis. And then you're looking at establishing critical infrastructure. So now this falls down to the hydrogen hubs primarily. What is the scope of the government in creating these hubs? Do you follow a model like the solar park model, where land, transmission infrastructure and shared facilities were set up, and all the developers had to do was come in and establish the solar project and sign the PPAs with the off-takers? And the last piece is on the regulations and legislation. So now this is something that plays a very key role, given that the hydrogen economy is going to be more global, possibly, or it's going to be equivalent to how the oil and gas industry works today. You will have certain regions, specifically regions with rich renewable energy and low-cost renewable energy, countries like India, which can produce hydrogen which could potentially produce hydrogen at low cost. But then you now have to export that hydrogen. If you are planning to export that hydrogen to a different nation, the standard that your nation prescribes and the importing nation or the exporting nation is using have to match. If they don't match, then you have a difference in contract, or you have a difference in opinion between what is considered low carbon hydrogen. The carbon border adjustment mechanism, for example, which EU is planning to operationalize sometime within this decade, this is one of the first key challenges that India could face. India exports a lot of steel to Europe. While there is a green premium available for that steel, how do you define that green steel? That definition becomes a really challenging task across borders. And only when you have consensus between these various nations is when you have a commodity or a product that can be traded globally. So that brings us to the key factors required to increase investments and funding across the economy. So you're looking, or the hydrogen economy, you're looking at economic competitiveness. So how do you lower the cost of hydrogen production? And how do you make it competitive with current grade hydrogen? Is it through incentivizing RE supply, creating low cost electrolyzers, or is it through?
With Shell Oil and Gas. So, I am Biswajit Rana. This morning. So I have a question basically for Mr. Japavanta and Anurag. So pretty insightful presentation. Thank you, sir. I do see everyone talking about CCUS, so carbon capture, utilization and storage from blue hydrogen. So I would not go to grey hydrogen because I don't think that's green enough. So blue hydrogen still uses natural gas, and the research, though I have not done the research, but the research says if you're using natural gas to produce hydrogen that will be used in fuel cells or in the steel cement industries, if you look at the entire hydrogen value chain, it's still not sustainable in terms of profitability. Though you might go for 50% purpose, but it's still not it's still not profitable in terms of using natural gas directly, which is much cleaner, right? So use natural gas directly for transportation, say mobility. Right? We're talking about two things. One is get blue hydrogen, use in mobility, right? A car. But rather than doing that, why not use the feedstock, natural gas itself to run CNG cars or something like the likes of those, right? So why are we going from blue hydrogen? In my opinion, it's an oxymoron, or probably it's a fallacy that some oil and gas companies, sorry, not quoting my own company, some energy companies are just trying to make money out of fossil fuels.
Yeah, blue from natural gas, it also doesn't make economic sense because you import majority of it. So it's a no-brainer, and I think the national mission is a green hydrogen mission. So there is a consensus that that's true. I think there's a margin case for a coal-based brown hydrogen to blue hydrogen for steel, but then the economics. So another thing is like CCS technology are not there yet. By the time it catches up, the hypothesis, again, don't quote me, it's a hypothesis right now, is that the green hydrogen price decline would have made green hydrogen potentially the more economic source of hydrogen in any case. So that's essentially the argument. So I completely agree with you. I think it's probably, especially for India, the natural gas CCS US route is not economic or it's not energy secure.
Yeah, which is exactly.
Last some years, to join some shake hand with private company or government. So we can, मैं हिंदी में बोलूँ तो ज़्यादा comfortable हूँ. हाइड्रोजन को प्रोड्यूस कर सकते हैं. So what is the way? आप लोगों से मेरी विनती है कि अगर मेरे पास एक टेक्निक है जहाँ से हम फॉरेन कंट्री से हट सकते हैं, उस डिपेंडेंसी से हट सकते हैं. Electrolyzer is the most expensive. Steam reforming, carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide, both वो होती है. 30% लीकेज होती है इसके अंदर. इन सबकी रिकवरी कर रहा हूँ. तो मुझे अभी रास्ता चाहिए आप लोगों से.
How do you want to produce ethanol first?
First, I break methane by the help of mercury as a catalyst and convert it, methane convert into ethane and hydrogen. Further, with pressure देके इथेन को मैं लिक्विडिफाई कर लेता हूँ, हाइड्रोजन को एक्सट्रैक्ट कर लेता हूँ और साथ में जो लिक्विड इथेन है उसको ऑक्सीडाइज करके एथेनॉल में चेंज कर देता हूँ. तो 100% नो वेस्टेज, 100% रिकवरी, 100% एथेनॉल रिकवर हो रहा है, 100% वो हाइड्रोजन रिकवर हो रहा है. मिथेन को हम कन्वर्ट करके प्रेजेंस ऑफ कैटलिस्ट रिएक्शन करके with low temperature, 400 kilo, then 400 degree temperature.
You said you want to use ethanol to produce hydrogen, or you are producing hydrogen and ethanol parallelly?
Parallelly, ethanol and hydrogen parallelly from methane.
From methane?
Yes.
You can submit the details first. You can submit the details first. But I don't know, you will have to see the economics, because you are already making ethane first, then going for ethanol to convert it again.
Yes.
But if you have ethane, you can use ethane directly. There are many usage for ethane.
सर इसके अंदर ये चीज है कि एक तो हम मिथेन में से इथेन और हाइड्रोजन एक्सट्रैक्ट कर रहे हैं विदाउट एनी पोल्यूटेड एनी ग्रीन हाउस गैस.
You said methane splitting.
Yes.
तो C1 से C2 कैसे जा रहा है?
मिथेन CH4.
Methane तो C1 है.
CH4. मिथेन
C1 है ना? तो इथेन में C2 है.
एक सिंगल कार्बन है.
तो डबल
तो
कैसे
अगर हम दो मॉलिक्यूल लेते हैं CH4 और CH4.
It will be energy intensive. You have to see the economics.
ना कुछ कम होता है.
Okay.
But
You can submit the details first.
Okay, thank you. Technically हम दोनों रहेंगे कि रास्ता सही बना.
Thank you so much, sir.
Hello. Right now it cuts the emission and it cuts the fossil fuel requirement. Now with this concept, and this is a patented concept already, of course. Now when the question is to Jagannath and Anurag,
and the reason why you're stacking them up 100 times or 50 times is because you want to create that hydrogen you want to create hydrogen for the use case in an industry. Even a small or a medium fertilizer plant is going to consume about 10 to 50,000 metric tons per annum, right? And that stacks up to, it's hardly comparable to a transport application where even in a bus uses maybe 40-50 kilos of hydrogen per tank. So if you're targeting cost, then you're looking at the wrong size or the wrong scale. If you're looking at application and if you're looking at testing your technology itself, then I think the pilot project approach to the mission in a use case like transport, where the cost can be absorbed by the consumer, like he was pointing out, that should be the way to go.
Yes. Yes, please. One. Yes, sir, please. One more picture. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Typically get approved in PM's TIEX, and we have another division called as Empowered Technology Group, which works with all the line ministries and advises line ministries and work on an integrated approach to develop some of the futuristic technology. And the third division, which I am representing here, is the Strategic Alliance Division. And as the name suggests, our role is to encourage alliances or facilitate collaboration. This is a very new division in Office of PSA. And last 3 to 4 years, we are trying to collaborate, or we are trying to bring both sides, whether the industries and the academics, researchers, startups, innovators, international organizations together to do multiple projects. Our focus is sustainable development goals, emerging technologies, which includes green hydrogen is also one of the focus area for the office, and social impact. So technology for the social impact is the area where we focus on. We had done a lot of collaboration in the last 1.5 years, and I should say more than 300 plus project has been facilitated by this division with industries or international organizations worth about 3,000 crores of funds coming from the industry side. So this is a majorly an industry interface division which facilitate collaborations. We take opportunities from the large scale industries, and whether it is R&D opportunities or they are scouting for some innovations, we work with all the line ministries, we take their problem statements, we work with all the state governments also, we work with international organizations, all embassies, all governments, and that's how we take all this opportunity and give it to our supply side, which include research innovation ecosystem, all 85,000 startups in the country, and also small scale industries. So MSMEs on this platform is basically coming on the both side. One is the demand side, who can look for any kind of collaborations from this portal, or they can also apply to the opportunities which is coming from all the large scale industries and central government and state government and international stakeholders. This platform, Manthan platform, was launched on 15th August last year only. It is just a 6-month-old platform launched by the scientific advisor to Prime Minister on the same day when the Honorable Prime Minister has added Jai Anusandhan in the slogan of our India to support research and innovations. So in last 6 months, we have seen a lot of flow of industries and academics and startups and innovations coming to this platform, which I will present you in short so that you can understand what are the opportunities even coming for the MSMEs to apply and get different kind of fundings, which is not a tight fundings which generally come from Government of India. It is also untied fundings where industries and foundations and philanthropist or international organizations are coming forward to support research and innovations in this country. This is the home page, and as I said, the platform is divided into two sides. One is the demand side, which include the people who give opportunities, and the supply side, which include all pan-India, means this platform is connected to all IITs and IITs, triple IITs, ISOs, AIMS, IIMs, ICMRs, institutes, CSIR, DRDO, all research institutes, tier 2, tier 3 kind of colleges also, plus almost 85,000 startups, including Startup India is there in this platform, all IIT incubator parks, Social Alpha, Will Grow, NCL Pune. So most of the incubators, accelerators, and small scale industries are also there on the supply side. We also have clusters, which I am going to speak forward. So this is just a result section. End of every month, we whatever calls get launched on this, we put the results. As I said, 3,000 plus crores of opportunity has come in this platform in last few years, and 300 projects has been facilitated. You can see the success stories are there, and all of them means International like World Economic Forum, USAID, UNIDO, industries, MNCs like Volvo, BSF, Biocon, everybody is utilizing this platform to connect with the research and innovation and the small scale industries in the country. You can see the dashboard, 30,000 different kind of entities are there on the platform. 732 research institutes are there. All 800 plus incubators are also there on this platform. Expert consultation, these are the partners with us who have started this platform, and it includes IITs, IIMs, international universities like Harvard, Stanford, MIT, international foundations like Gates Foundation, Rockefeller Foundations. We have industry associations like CII, NASCOM, CSR Box. We have central ministries, central government like DST. We have some informal groups also like CMS who works in the health sectors. We have UN organizations like South-South Corporations, UNICEF, who are partner to this platform. Startup India, TCS was a validation partner. Knowledge partner, KPMG is a pro bono knowledge partner for this platform. They comes up with a lot of market research report, and they energize this platform, every sectors of this platform, with a lot of opportunities coming from industry for collaborations. You can find these are the last 6 months, all these industries has come and given, not only industries, all international stakeholders, government, central government, everybody has come and utilized. You can see X Prize funded by Elon Musk has given $100 million decarbonization challenge on this platform. GIAP, Rockefeller Foundations, you have IBM, Volvo, everybody coming with some problem statements to connect with the small scale industries, researchers, innovators in this country. So the list is very long, and you will find all these players has been interacting. International governments like JICA from Japan, we have French embassy, we are working with Sweden, we are working with UK. So almost 15 international countries we are working, and everybody is using this platform for this is a crowd-funded platform, initially funded by the Industries Act Grant, Amazon, and Mr. Lakshmi Narayan from Cognizant has funding this. You can see the opportunities, and as I said, this is the demand-driven platform where demand is raised by the opportunity size, and you can see right now more than 30 opportunities are open. And just for information, Hydrogen Valley call of DST, Departments of Science and Technology, I'm going to speak on that also, is also open till 14th of May. So I think the Center of Excellence which has been launched here, we have researchers, SMEs, and the full hydrogen value chain here. They can apply to this call, and I will speak on those areas also. So you can see all national, international players are coming with a lot of opportunities. You can filter them through SDGs, emerging technologies. Last 6 months, as I said, more than 2,000 crores of opportunities has come on this platform from different players, mostly funding opportunities. Anybody, whether you can be on the demand side also, if you are looking for some research and innovation in the country, and you wanted to see who are the players or who are the researchers working in this area. So you can also call for innovations, R&D innovations, which are in the early TRL stage, whether it is at idea stage, proof of concept stage, or whether at a prototype stage, or go-to-market kind of technologies. You can go through it. Implementation projects. So we do implement a lot of projects we have facilitated with the technologies of startups or researchers in this country, and with the help of the large-scale industries and government. Center of Excellence, this is where I want to focus. We had set up 15 Center of Excellence in Research Institute in last 1 year. All Center of Excellence funded by industries and international organizations. We onboard relevant ministries on this Center of Excellence. They work on 4 major pillars. One is pre-incubation pillar, where they identify all the thematic area or the ideas which are available to those Center of Excellence. They shortlist those ideas. Second pillar, they incubate cohort of startups, and they work on those shortlisted ideas along with the researchers from the institutes. Third is testing validations of those technologies, and fourth is scaling up to the market. developing micro entrepreneurs and skilling, which is very, very important, and hydrogen also, which the green hydrogen mission is focusing on. Those kind of things are also done by the Center of Excellence. We have set up like Sanitation Center of Excellence, Global Sanitation Technologies funded by Gates Foundation, SDFC Bank, RM Scientific, IPMO, Toilet Board Coalition, almost 4 or 5 entities coming together as funding a Center of Excellence in IIT Palakkad. Even Mr. Gates visited our office and was so happy with the Center of Excellence, and he has committed to run all sanitation related technologies for South Asia through the Center of Excellence. That's how we have done in clean affordable energy in IIT Dharwad, funded by Honeywell, Infineon, Shellco Foundation, Lowe's. We have done circular economy in TERI, funded by ICICI Foundation, air pollution related technologies in IIT Kanpur and IIT Delhi, funded by Bloomberg, Clean Air Funds, and CIFF. We have done AI/ML Center of Excellence in NIT Patna. We are working with the Joint Center of Excellence with Sweden in Deep Ocean Mission and Climate Change with KTH Sweden and IIT Roper. We are working with Saab, which is the Swedish Industries, in Avionics Center of Excellence, which is going to set up in ISC Bangalore. So all this Center of Excellence and are working in a structured manner, and all are funded. All these industries sit on the governing body. We nominate Office of PSA representative. We nominate relevant ministries, so that whatever innovations are going on, it should be absorbed by the relevant ministries while they are taking it to the market. And that's the way we do Center of Excellence. And there is an industrial R&D section here also. So many of the industries who are looking for confidential R&D, who does not want to disclose, they can use the classified section. They can connect with the, like many of the industries, like Tata Group is doing API with this platform, BHEL has done, UNICEF is doing. So all different large industries are doing API, so that all their research problems where the MSMEs can also apply can go to this platform, and you people can avail those kind of funding from this platform. We get a lot of proposals from researchers, startups, MSMEs. We stack this proposal in an interesting manner. As you can see, as per the SDGs, like if somebody is looking for clean, affordable energy, so they can, if your interest area is only one SDG, you can come to this section. You can see the opportunity, which are the mirror image of opportunity only related to the clean energy. You can see the proposals which are there from all research institutes, startups. So here you can see like more than 54 opportunities has come in clean affordable energy areas, and 6 are open right now. Market research report from KPMG. You can see the proposals from different research institutes like IIT, NITs, startups, SMEs, who are looking for support, and many industries come to here, and government, they go to this portal, they directly pick up these proposals for funding. You can also be a subject matter experts on this platform, and you can connect with the subject matter experts related to this thematic area. Similarly, I said the second focus area is emerging technologies, and these are the 28 emerging technologies like green hydrogen, space, mobility, and all those are identified by us. The numbers which you are seeing are all opportunities in this area, and you can go through this center, each of the thematic areas which is of your interest, connect with the researchers, get the opportunities from those areas, and connect with the startups, SMEs. That's how this platform works on. We have multiple segments here. I was talking about science and technology clusters. Office of PSA along with the NITI Aayog under the Prime Minister Council recommendation has set up science and technology clusters in India. These are, right now we have 7 science and technology clusters in Delhi, Bangalore, Hyderabad, Bhubaneswar, Jodhpur, Pune, and Chandigarh is the upcoming one. Each of these clusters is a group of research institutions, industries, and incubation centers and the state governments coming together. For example, Delhi cluster is housed in IIT Delhi, which is a group of like IIT AIMS, IIIT Ashoka, TERI, JNU, IIT Dhanbad, Maruti, Mahindra, Delhi government. So CSIR, IGIB, Delhi Metro, everybody coming together and working on 2 areas. One is the social development cause, and second is the industrial R&D section. So this science and technology sectors you can be a part of this clusters also. You can see like Delhi cluster is focusing on solid waste management. Hydrogen is one of the area where they're focusing on. AI/ML in healthcare, sustainable mobility, effective education. So all these clusters works in different area, and you can connect with them. And we have a other section which is a government opportunity, and as I said, most of the state government and central government, they throw their opportunities. MSMEs can also apply to these opportunities. Right now I think more than 20 plus opportunities from different line ministries are open, and you people can visit here and you can apply to this opportunities. It's coming from all different line ministries and state government, as I was saying. So you can visit to this section also. And international partnership, as I said, we are working with 15 plus more international countries. So they can basically look for different kind of collaborations opportunities coming from the international partnerships also in these areas. They can set up center of excellence, technology validation, technology partner, co-patenting. So a lot of opportunities are coming from the international ecosystem also. We are also onboarding 50 top research institute from the world to be a partner with our Indian Research Institute. We have Harvard, Cambridge, Stanford. Most of them are coming. Their researchers are also coming on this platform. Women in STEM is one of the areas which is a mission from Prime Minister's office, and we encourage participation of women in STEM areas, and a lot of partnerships are there in these areas. School innovation, 50,000 plus schools are there in this platform. Exhibition where industry can come and throw any kind of exhibition opportunity where you are looking for a technology in hydrogen, lithium-ion battery, or medical, any sectors where you're looking for, and the researchers will apply, and the innovators and small-scale industries can showcase their technologies in the exhibition sector. Coming to the events, we do a lot of branding of research and innovation in this country, and those who have innovative technologies, we are doing a show with Amazon where all the different kind of grassroots innovators they are selecting and making a show. It is going to launch next month with Netflix and Hollywood director Mr. Anthony Giffins. We are directing some of the innovations in climate change. So the researchers, innovators, and the grassroots innovators, they are applying to these opportunities. We are working with IFCO for farmer technologies episodes. We are working with Jaipur Literature Festival for Be Inspired series. So a lot of events can also be done on this platform. Coming to the Hydrogen Valley, we have done more than 8 workshops in last 2 to 3 months. DST has launched a call where they're looking for setting up 3 Hydrogen Valley in India. And where they are basically looking for the whole hydrogen value chain, starting from the production, manufacturing, storage technologies, and transport technologies, and also offtake of those technologies, which is also important. We had with our clusters, we started this facilitating this Hydrogen Valley. We have done in Pune, where more than 40-50 industries came together and they wanted to be a part of this Hydrogen Valley. NCL Pune is leading this thing. We have done in Bangalore cluster, where Volvo and multiple industries has come. We have done in Hyderabad. We have done in Kerala. We have done. The purpose of this workshop is to identify the local ecosystem for hydrogen, where DST can fund, and I think it's 150 crores kind of projects where they want all the stakeholders should come together and work together. And they are identifying different TRL of, we know hydrogen is in nascent stage. We are identifying multiple technologies which are in different TRL and associated with green hydrogen. And I think Delhi is missing in that, and I feel all the stakeholders from Delhi and the initiatives taken by the Center of Excellence by PSD Chamber of Commerce can also pitch for this Center of Excellence, bringing research stakeholders together and the industries together from in different value chain of the company. So I would request if this can be taken as one of the initiatives from your side. With this, I would like to thank you very much.
Arbitration, dispute resolutions. Relevant experience is in energy and regulatory litigation, evolving frameworks, regulatory regime and policies. She is going to speak on policies and challenges in our hydrogen economy.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much to all the panelists for allowing me to go in a little earlier because of a time constraint and another commitment. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Rimali. I'm from DSK Legal, like just mentioned. So DSK Legal has been working in the space of oil and natural gas for almost over 25 years now. So hydrogen obviously becomes a part of the kitty of the work that we do. But briefly speaking, before I talk about the legal terms and nuances, I must say, and I must tell you how law really works. So there's an old saying that when the government sees something moving, something that's happening, the first thing that they do is they tax it. And the second thing, if it keeps moving and keeps generating revenue, then they regulate it. And it stops moving after that because then there is a regulator who's telling you what to do and how to conduct your business. And that's when the government subsidizes it. So this is the journey of any new legal product that comes in the market. So for me, hydrogen is going to be a legal product, and we'll have to see it through that lens as to how the ministry and how the regulators are really going to put it in a frame or in a bottle and regulate it and regulate the stakeholders. Let's take a step back. Natural gas, we know, is in the bucket list of the central government for its very simple reason that it appears in the Constitution in list 1. So the central government regulates everything to do with naturally discovered gas, petroleum products. Now here comes hydrogen, there comes CBG, and there comes blending. What do we do with these kind of products which are not natural products, but then the government has to give benefits for it to be blended with the existing infrastructure and the existing law and the legal regime? So the ministry, as we know, so DSK Legal was recently appointed by the Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas for assisting them in overhauling the upstream and the downstream legislations. It's a work in progress, it's still going on. Without giving away too much confidential information, what I can share is that they are conscious of the fact that they don't have jurisdiction over the gas or the molecule. But they do understand that this molecule wouldn't operate in the sector without it interacting with the infrastructure that exists. For example, pipelines. It will have to interact with the pipelines. It will have to interact with the areas which are authorized to certain entities, which have marketing exclusivity for certain years. Then how do you market hydrogen in an area where there is a CGD entity already authorized to sell a certain kind of gas? Can they regulate the price of this gas? We all know that doesn't happen. But can they regulate the transportation of this gas? They can. So there are factors which have to be looked in from a legal lens to understand and appreciate whether this policy that we are talking about, right now there is no law. We are only talking about a policy. Is the policy sufficient? Let's take a parallel example. EVs. We know when they were launched in the market, we were all very thrilled that, yes, electric vehicles are going to be the next big thing. But then comes the challenges. There is no law as of now. There is a policy, and there is a department within the ministry which is taking care of day-to-day ad hoc issues. What happened? The players in the market started reading the policies to their benefit. And then there was nobody to resolve the issue. There is no regulator, there is no court. There's nobody to really resolve the issue as to how exactly the policy has to be interpreted. So what is the real stance of a policy? How good is a policy? So in the first session, I remember a lot of speakers saying that there were a lot of incentives which were given in the policy. I'll talk about those. But before going there, until those incentives are really rolled out as a matter of legislation by the states, because this is not natural gas. It's a subject now that the states will deal with. So hydrogen, every individual state can come out with its own policy and its own legal document and make it a part of its infrastructure in the manner they deem appropriate. Land is a state subject, renewable energy is a state subject, and that is why we will probably not see a central legislation, a central act on this, but we'll have to follow and keep a tab on independent state acts. So for any individual who's wanting to or aspiring to work in this space will have to go down to all the state legislations and policies in that space. Now, what does the central policy then do? What does this policy really provide? Briefly, the green hydrogen policy had given indications for all state governments to adopt. Let me speak about a few of them. The first one was availability of renewable energy on power exchanges, because renewable energy is the process that would be required for extracting hydrogen. So the central government in its policy has said that for all individuals who are wanting to procure energy, need not do it at an expensive cost within the state, they can do it over the power exchange at an incentive. So that's one of the benefits which the policy gave. Not yet been materialized in a legal form by the IGX or the existing exchanges that are operating. Second, what happens to the distribution of energy that is produced while using hydrogen? So a lot of distribution licensees in the state have also been mandated to purchase green hydrogen. It's like the RPO obligation. I'm not sure how many of us are familiar with this term, but there is a renewable purchase obligation on every distribution licensee in the state. So all distribution companies in a state geographical area have to mandatorily purchase some percentage of solar energy, hydel energy or wind energy, and now hydrogen energy. Which means that if there is a mandate on the distribution companies to purchase certain percentage of gas, it would mean there is already a demand that has been created by way of this policy, thereby boosting supply and making it a bankable project. The other was waiver of interstate transmission charges. Generally, if electricity flows wherever, if it's produced from a renewable source or from a non-renewable source, if electricity travels from Maharashtra to Gujarat, there is an interstate transmission charge because the network changes from Gujarat to Maharashtra. However, for hydrogen, if the source of production is that of hydrogen is being produced through renewable energy and that is being purchased, the electricity then which flows on the transmission line from that source will be exempted for interstate transmission charges. And I must tell you, it makes the project bankable a lot, especially because it's been exempted for the next 25 years of any project life. The last one was connectivity to the grid. Connectivity to the grid meaning you need to wait for your turn because it's a capacity centric with respect to electricity. There's only finite capacity available. Let's say there is hydrogen available and you want to then sell electricity being produced using hydrogen and you are waiting in line, probably you'll have to wait, let's say 6 months, 8 months. But if you show your source of production at hydrogen, you get priority on the list and you get a faster connectivity. So this is incentivizing and boosting green energy purchases. A single portal will be created, which is yet to see the light of the day. A single portal where all approvals that you require at the central level and the state level is likely to come up, which will then make it easier for any industry to first analyze that these are the list of things that they need to do as compliances. Like let me give you an example. Like when roads are dug out, I'm sure we've all seen roads being dug out in front of our houses. Once for the telecom lines, then again maybe for your electricity lines, and then one more time maybe for your gas lines. So this makes it easier that when you dig a road, you put all the lines together at one go, so all departments are informed. So having a common portal in that sense is really going to help reduce the cost, compliances, delay risks, and make the project more viable. And finally, with respect to storage of green hydrogen, though of course there is a lot of, I would say, gap in the policy with respect to storage, but at the same time, specifically for green hydrogen manufacturers, they will be permitted to have bunkers near ports for storing green ammonia for export and use of shipping. Land for storage will be provided by respective port authorities. Now this again is a cushion comfort and putting you in at the priority list if you are wanting to again enhance hydrogen. However, nothing looks so green unless you look at the challenges. Like I said right in the beginning, there are a lot of challenges in the legal gaps that still exist because there is no legal firm framework as of now. However, there are going to be, supply chain issues. I think the speakers in the first session have already spoken about it. There's going to be technology issues because we are yet to discover how to handle safety and what to provide for. Like what would the OSID provide in terms of safety of hydrogen? We are yet to see how that space gets covered. The risk of usage of hydrogen, the high cost of production that is there, a lack of proper infrastructure for this to move. And as I said, there are a lot of policy and economic challenges. Specifically, I feel that there is a huge potential for this particular product to come in because we are a young demographic as of now, so definitely it will seep in and it will grow. But if we have a robust legal system, I'm not saying regulate it, I'm not going there, because if we move to regulation, we'll quickly have to move to subsidizing it. I'm not saying regulate it, but maybe if we want to bring it to a level of taxing it, we need to first bring it to a level of generating revenue in the economy. So that's a start point. I hope the legal system over the next few years will improve and will add this as a part of the existing framework. Any questions?
About it? What I would like to emphasize is that all the speakers at some time or the other have talked about the safety. So safety is a thread which runs through all aspects of hydrogen, whether you look at the legal aspects, whether you look at regulatory, whether you look at policy, R&D. So safety is what I'm going to talk to you about today. So if you look at hydrogen, it's got very unique properties. It's not that we haven't handled hydrogen before. There have been industries in the industrial sector, and many of them we have handled hydrogen, and the people there are well aware of the hazards and how to handle them. But now we are going to enter into there's a paradigm shift in the way we're going to handle hydrogen. This is now going to come into the public arena. There are new manufacturing methods. We are going to have electrolyzers. We are going to have various storage devices which have never been used before. It's going to get into refueling stations where operators who have never handled hydrogen are going to be exposed. It's going to come into the public arena in terms of transportation, where public at large is going to be exposed in case of any risk. So that is involuntary risk, which are vis-a-vis voluntary risk. So there are so many aspects which are going to come into the picture. So it makes all sense to first understand what are these challenges, what are these safety hazards and risks, and then how to address them. So I'll go very quickly through what are these special characteristics of hydrogen. As you know, it's a very, very small molecule. So what happens is it just penetrates into anything it interacts with. For example, if you're going to take it into a pipeline, it is going to get into all those spaces, interstitial spaces, and embrittle it. Sorry. And also it's easily ignited. It's got a very large flammability range. And it's very light. So if it is going to leak out into the atmosphere, it's just going to disperse. Unless, of course, it is within a closed, congested area where a fire could lead into a detonation or an explosion. So these are all the unique properties of hydrogen. Also, it's, if there's a hydrogen fire, you won't be able to see it because it's colorless. So that's another challenge. So people could just walk into the fire without even realizing it. So why is it important? I've already told you why hydrogen safety is important. It's a relatively new endeavor, and proper methods of handling storage, transport, etc. are still to be addressed across the various communities, and there is insufficient knowledge about some critical safety aspects. And then a single hydrogen-related accident could negatively impact and sort of be a showstopper. So, and we don't want that to happen. So what do we need to do for a successful hydrogen technology acceptance and deployment? We must make sure that safety issues are addressed, and we look at hydrogen infrastructure design, we look at foundation for hydrogen standards. So we have to look at safety across the entire hydrogen value chain. We look at risk and hazard assessment methods, which are integral part of system safety analysis. I don't have too much time today to talk about system safety and systems approach, but this is the way forward because it's a very complex problem with a lot of uncertainties. So a systems approach is very, very important. So I'll just come straight to our Center of Excellence in IIT Delhi, which was set up for process safety and risk management. But increasingly, in fact, our patron-in-chief, Dr. Saraswat, who was there today in the morning, he advised us that with the country entering into and with this new green hydrogen mission, we should focus on hydrogen safety, and that's what we've been doing. So this is a very new center. It was set up, as you say, 3 partners coming in, IIT Delhi, GEXCON as a knowledge partner, and NIRA as an industry partner. And our main focus areas were for capacity building and conducting R&D in all these areas, and consultancy and advisory. So these are the luminaries who guide the COE. We have members from the partners as well as from the industry and R&D sector. Our stakeholders are the industries, R&D centers, government, academia, and our areas of expertise are capacity building programs and process safety, training programs, fire and explosion testing, and then audits, process safety hazard analysis, regulatory compliance, and then incident accident investigation. So this is again a summary of all that, and we are increasingly getting into providing inputs or review for safety standards. I'm sorry, I'm going very fast. This is just to give you a very quick overview. You're welcome to contact me for a detailed discussion if any of you is interested. So this is hydrogen advanced safety assessment. We have 3D CFD modeling tools. What happens is, unless you do 3D modeling, the effect of congestion is never realized. And invariably across the country, we are using 2D tools. So we have a computational center there where we do 3D CFD modeling. We train people on that, and we can use it for consultancy as well. This can be used throughout the life cycle of a project, whether it's a pre-concept stage or the conceptual stage or the actual commissioning operation. We can do these CFD modeling studies. We can do risk communication analysis, understand in case there's an accident and its consequences, support the design of installation in terms of what should be the safety distances, what should be the layout optimization, ventilation, gas detectors, where they should be placed, and so on, and sizing, verification, and optimization of structures and equipment. The other area I want to emphasize is virtual reality training. This is very, very important here because you cannot actually train people on all the types of accident scenarios which can happen. So for emergency responders, for regulators, for decision makers, you need to expose them through virtual reality training. This is basically customized for each client. So the various support services which could be required by the MSMEs in all stages, whether it's production, whether it's transmission, whether it's consumption. So we can do a HAZOP analysis. We can look at evaluation of safety concepts, materials compatibility assessments, and then we can look at risk, basic inspections. We can look at analysis, design, damage analysis, and again we can look at training of the staff. So this is a computational facility we have set up. We have already run a large number of courses. These are the safety courses offered. We have short-term as well as long-term courses. This is the VR visualization for risk communication and training. For example, this shows how in a refueling station, we could actually do a VR for explosion there. This is our website. You're welcome to visit that and look at upcoming courses and any kind of consultancy you're interested in. These were the training programs we ran in 2022. This was on process safety, hydrogen safety, flame accelerator, simulator, 6-day introductory course. And then we also did a program on hydrogen blending and its transportation and energy pipelines. We've already run 2 courses this year as well. And our upcoming trainings, we are going to do a virtual reality training for the National Fire Services College in Nagpur. This is basically, we are interested in creating an ecosystem for hydrogen safety in the country. We interact with government and regulatory bodies, international collaboration with various countries, various R&D centers within the country and abroad, and academic institutions both within the country and abroad. These are some of the events which we have participated in at various international and national fora. I also happen to be the co-chair for IGEF, and we are also part of the RCS task force for Quad Global Green Hydrogen, and a member of the advisory group for National Green Hydrogen Mission. So these are some of the events in the recent past. So the way forward, I would like to end with that. I hope I have not taken too much time. So the focal areas are research and development programs, process and hydrogen safety, and then human capacity building, advisory, consultancy and hydrogen process safety, and establishing and maintaining a database of lessons learned, accident, incident, and near misses. This is very, very important. Already international databases exist, and we would like to tie up with them. Certification for system safety, and finally, evaluation of risk acceptance criteria. At present, even if we evaluate the risk, there is no criteria with which to compare it. National criteria do not exist. So we are forced to compare it with international criteria. And this is again an area where I think we need to put an emphasis. So I'll close with that. And as I said, you're all welcome to connect with me for
Energy Center. Briefly go about this national hydrogen mission, supply of demand of hydrogen, private sector participation. Stain-based New Energy Center at present it is in Hyderabad and associated with Stain-based India. Primarily we are working for renewable energy and we are getting support from the Stain-based Germany and the DAC from there we get a lot of support. Our main focus is on green hydrogen and concentrated solar power process with participation from Stain-based Germany. The eminent rocket scientist Dr. Shivadhanu Pillai, Padma Bhushan, founder of BrahMos, he is our chief advisor and is guiding us for all the activities and the pilot project that we are going for the green hydrogen. Presently, we are in several areas we are now trying to work. Hydrogen pilot projects around, at present we are thinking about 5 megawatt alkaline electrolyzer. Earlier we were thinking about 20 or 100 megawatt, but actually thinking about the economics, we are now thinking of going for a 5 megawatt electrolyzer plant. The power we may get from the grid or from renewable source that we have not decided yet. We are also working for concentrated solar power. That is also tentatively in a smaller scale at present, 5 megawatt with Solar Light Germany. We are now under discussion with engineering companies in India for the BOP and detail engineering to mostly to make the engineering for this the hydrogen plant or these other BOPs to Indianize, to do localize. We have already established Indo-German Center for Hydrogen Research at Chennai, Hindustan Institute of Technology. We have got some collaboration with them, and we have formulated various training program with the HIT Chennai. Also, we are doing several capacity building workshops. Several of them we have already done. I will just go through very quickly National Green Hydrogen Mission. It was approved in 4th January. Basically, it was to support and incentivize the commercial production of green hydrogen to make Atmanirbhar Bharat. So we have already discussed this thing. These numbers also, I think already we have discussed. For site program, 17,490 has been earmarked. Pilot projects, 1,466 crore has been earmarked. For R&D, 400 crore earmarked. Put together, it is around 19,744 crore has been earmarked for this green hydrogen mission. That is a very good thing that the industry was expecting from long time. That will be a really boost up. The target will be around by 2030. Target is around annual production of 5 million metric ton, and the lot of jobs is also supposed to come. Good big investment, and lot of electrolyzers we have should be manufacturing in India. This one. And the site program, strategic intervention for green hydrogen, the domestic manufacturing, the two aspects, domestic manufacturing of electrolyzer and incentivize the production of green hydrogen. So benefits, export opportunities, decarbonization, reduction of dependence of import fossil fuels, employment opportunities, so many things. Pilot projects in green steel areas, blending a small percentage in the beginning. Progressively it will be increased as the economics supports. In transportation areas, hydrogen highways will be identified, and the hydrogen production projects, distribution infrastructure, fueling station will be built. FCEV of buses and trucks will be supported, and blending of green hydrogen for methanol, ethanol will be in the automobile fuel. Shipping Corporation of India, at least 2 ships there, they have targeted by 2027, at least 1 ship by each POC. Green ammonia bunkers of fueling facilities, at least 1 port by 2025. So Indianize the big imports that we do in urea, diammonium sulfate, ammonia. So a lot of hydrogen will be used in those. So 1 urea plant and 1 DAP plant has been targeted by in this mission, and later on all ammonia-based fertilizers has been targeted. Green hydrogen hubs, the cluster-based production utilization model has been emphasized. Regions capable of supporting large-scale production and development is identified. At least 2 such green hydrogen hubs. I think now they have telling around 3 green hydrogen hubs in the initial phase will be there. Policy framework, the other actions, policy framework, robust standards, regulations, big R&D boost up with strategic in hydrogen innovation and partnership, and of course skill development program. Supply of demand, the international demand around 94% million metric ton is at present. Production mostly in the natural gas, coal, oil, fossil fuel, and utilization is mostly in the refineries areas, ammonia, fertilizer areas, methanol, steel industries. At present 6 million metric ton is the requirement at here in India at present. Fertilizer, mostly fertilizer and refining. In steel, the methanol. In imported areas, with the import substitute for the fertilizer, ammonia and methanol, there will be a requirement that also will come for hydrogen. 1.2 million for fertilizer, 0.5 for ammonia, 0.4 for methanol. So put together it becomes total requirement. For indigenous requirement there is a possibility of 8.1 million metric tons. So that is a very big requirement that is coming up. Other potential, other emerging areas, hydrogen fuel cell car, hydrogen fuel trucks, shipping, aviation, big opportunity, blending of green hydrogen based methanol, ethanol in automobile fuel, green steel opportunity to come. Building gas network, the blending of hydrogen, green hydrogen in gas network, in power generation, and private participation in industries. So fertilizer and refineries industries, there is a very big requirement that already we discussed. In mobility sector, steel and storage export also, there is those are going to come in the near future. Timeline, basically in 2023, mostly the consultation and procedure regulatory work and formulation of R&D roadmap, these sort of things will be there. 24-25, the bidding stage and the formulation of the projects and all those things will be there. And from 26 onwards, the big implementation projects is envisaged. So there is we hope there is a boost up in the electrolyzer manufacturing area. target to 25 gigawatt up to 2023. So these renewable energy developers, oil and gas companies, EPC companies, electrolyzer companies, they are all now in the market for going for these manufacturing for the electrolyzers. 47 projects have been announced. 22 of them moved beyond initial stage, and those are mostly in the ammonia and refineries areas. Ammonia around 21,000, refinery around 30 or 13,000, gas blending around 2,300. So these are, some of them are in commissioning stage, some of them in construction, some of them in UI stage. And the planning stage, there are 25 projects, and mostly in the ammonia export projects. Ammonia, around 1.8 million is for ammonia projects is coming up. In mobility, around 20 or 21,000, methanol 18,000. So some are in proposal cleared, some in the MOU stage, some in planning stage.
Needs to progress given the timelines that are there. We are all well aware that globally 2050 is the year being touted as the year for decarbonizing the global economy. And if you look at this graph here, you can see that we are from 2000 till 2020 or 2019, we are progressing in terms of the decarbonization rate, or the how much is the rate at which we are decreasing the total CO2 emissions as a percentage of the GDP. How that is decreasing, it is very slow. If you see in the initial years, it is 1.5. In 2019, it has dropped, it has accelerated a bit to 2.4%. And then what we need and what we are talking about in terms of net zero commitments, etc., is going to be something like the 2-degree scenario as well as a 1.5-degree scenario, which is actually corresponds much closer to the net zero scenario. So you can see the 2-degree scenario. It requires a much faster rate of decarbonization that is required. So up to 7.7% is what is required over here. And then if we look at the 1.5-degree scenario, then you require 11+%, almost 12% of deceleration rate. So that goes to show that we have to really accelerate our efforts. A tenfold acceleration of the global decarbonization effort is required. And how that is happening is, of course, there are regulatory push that is happening across the globe in terms of carbon taxes, and most of the economies amounting to 44% of the total GDP, most of the countries have put in place a green hydrogen policy or roadmap. Then we have also got the demand. There is a demand from the industry itself, a demand pull, which talks about various industries like, of course, petroleum is there, then there is decarbonization demand pull because various industries like chemicals, steel, the industries themselves are working towards the decarbonization. There is also from the investor side, investors are insisting on green technologies, and therefore there is a push from the capital market side. And while all this is happening, the renewable energy, which is a very important component, the sourcing of energy has to be from the renewable sources for the entire decarbonization agenda to move. And as we go along, there is expected to be a significant decrease in the price of renewable energy, and that decrease is also going to be a driver to reduce the rate at which they increase the rate at which the decarbonization effort is happening. So this is the global context. In the Indian context, when we look at, we have got our NDCs, of course, are there, which would be asking us to reduce our emission intensities of our GDP by 45% by 2030. And then there is a 50%, the criteria of having 50% of our total energy through renewable energy sources. Then, of course, the green hydrogen mission, we have heard several times that 5 million tons is the target by 2030 to have green hydrogen usage across different sectors. Then a net zero, of course, we have, the Prime Minister has announced the net zero commitments by 2070. So this would be the Indian context where we have significant commitments made, and we are working towards those commitments. So in this context, now GIZ, German Development Agency, of course you are well aware, and Bureau of Energy Efficiency. So GIZ, in consultation with Bureau of Energy Efficiency, has thought of having this scenario building exercise, sort of developing decarbonization pathways for the Indian economy. So we are talking in terms of a longer timeline from 2030 till 2050 and also up to 2070. The objectives with which this study is commissioned would include constructing various, how much is the electrification potential, because electrification, once that is achieved, you can supply renewable energy and the technologies that are electrified can be powered through renewable energy easily, and that would then result into the faster rate of decarbonization. So how much potential do we have? What are the technologies that are available? How much is the evolution of each of these technologies? What are the technology readiness levels in various sectors of the economy? Nobody really has looked at in terms of how quickly these technologies can penetrate and what could be the scenario in terms of the adoption of electrification technologies along this timeline of from 2030 to 2050 to 2070. So this is one of the studies which we are partnering with GIZ and Bureau of Energy Efficiency, and this is what I will be talking about today and some of the results from this. So the activities involve, of course, establishing a baseline of how the energy consumption in the industry, that itself, how it will grow from today to 2030, 2050 and 2070. So based on how the projections of the GDP of the country, how the economy will grow, and thereby how much energy requirements will be there. That is the first step of projecting the energy requirements. Then we look at the each sector like cement, steel, refineries, etc. Each sector we look at and see how much is the electrification potential in each of these sectors, so that once technologies are electrified, then renewable energy can pitch in, and then you can get closer towards the decarbonization goal. And the third part, of course, once we have established what the technologies are, how the technologies will evolve, what will be the evolution of cost of each of these technologies, then we also look at how much is the total renewable energy requirement, because after all, after converting various technologies into, after electrifying the various processes in the industry, then we need to know how much of renewable energy is required to power all the electrified processes. So looking at that, and also looking at the different combinations of renewable energy sources, solar and wind being the major, but all the other renewable energy sources, including methanol and biomass, etc., all put together, what would be the energy mix? How would be the plant load factors that would be there for that particular energy mix? So this is also a consideration in the study. So we have developed a tool, a dynamic tool, where various inputs can be dynamically varied and various scenarios can be analyzed. Something which will be very useful for the policymaker to understand how in different scenarios, how much electrification and how much renewable energy requirement, how much hydrogen capacity requirements will be there as we progress. So here is a screenshot of the tool. There are certain
more such events in future where we will deliberate. Now I request Dr. Saraswat to kindly come on the dais so that we do this quick round of felicitations and break for lunch. I know everyone is feeling hungry.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Rumaji, for coming all the way for today's event. And to Dr. Chitra Rajagopalji, supporting the Center for Excellence in PhD Chamber. Thanks a lot.